Directions on how to glaze your clay project. When you get your clay project back, you might notice it looks a little different and is a little bit smaller. You're going to be starting to add glaze at this point, and you have the primary colors and the ability to mix them. And you also have clear. Just pay attention, I have labeled the one that is clear. It's the light blue appearing one, so it is not light blue, it's actually clear. And when you add it to your clay project, your project will be the color of the clay, just shiny. If you want, you could use one palette to mix colors to create things like purple, green, or orange. Just remember, you're not glazing the bottom. If you accidentally get any on the bottom of your project, you can easily wipe it off with a damp sponge. So notice these are not glazed on the bottom. Make sure that you're using a black handled brush to add glaze. The glaze is pretty hard on the bristles of a brush, so we're going to use a little bit older brushes. And when you add the glaze, you want it to be relatively thick on there. You don't want it to be really streaky and thin, because it won't have a nice appearance once it is fired. Also, you might have to kind of pat it into small spaces because sometimes the glaze is a little stubborn and doesn't want to go between pieces of clay. So here I demonstrate how you can just kind of pat your brush to get in between those small spaces if you added extra embellishments and stuff like that. If you want to mix colors, you can use one palette, get your brush loaded with glaze, and then you'll twist it off into one of the little wells on the palette. And then when you're ready to switch colors so that you don't muck up the original ones, rinse very, very thoroughly, and then make sure you have all the water off your brush. If you do not, this will water down the glaze and it will not be as vibrant. It'll be kind of streaky and see-through, which we do not want. Also, it's important to have a clean brush so that you're not mixing colors. I have a limited supply of glaze, so please keep it clean so that it lasts as long as possible. Then gently stir inside of the well. Right now I'm making purple. It's not going to be really, really bright purple or green or orange, whatever you decide, but if you would like to mix, this is one way you can do it. And then you apply it just the same way. In order to get nice, vibrant, dark colors, it's important to add many layers of glaze. I would go for at least 2 or 3 layers of glaze, because if you do not, it will be very streaky and kind of transparent, and really that's not what we're going for. Once it is kind of dried and no longer shiny, you can start adding your next layer. Try, if you can, to add 2 to 3 layers. If you want to try out the drip appearance, this is what you can do. You make sure that you have lots of glaze on your brush and you pat your brush kind of at the top until it begins to drip downward. Before you return your piece back to the box to be fired again, you need to use a damp sponge or a damp paper towel to get off all the glaze off the bottom of your project. This is extremely important so it doesn't get stuck to the kiln shelf and possibly break. That's all the directions for today. I just wanted to mention that when you're glazing, you don't have to worry about being really precise, because the glaze kind of has a mind of its own anyways, and it's going to go into spaces you maybe didn't intend it to do, and then when it becomes glass in the kiln, it's going to kind of go its own way anyhow. So really the important part is making sure that you have enough layers of glaze so your colors are very vibrant.